In this example video, I'm going to show you how to take a group of data and represent it using 3 different visuals. We're going to use a stem and leaf plot, a dot plot, and a histogram. So here I'm using a data set of 40 test scores from students in a statistics course. And what we're going to do is organize these 40 data values into a stem and leaf plot. So in a stem and leaf plot, what we're going to do is separate each data value into a stem and a leaf. So the leaf is always the ones unit of your data value, and the stem consists of the tens unit and up. So in our data set, we notice we have scores in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. So the stems are going to be values 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And the leaves are going to be the digits in the ones unit. So a 7, a 4, a 0, etc. So what we're going to do is create the stem and leaf plot. So in the stem, I'm going to write these values in order from lowest to highest. And then what I will do is list each leaf. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go through the data values in order. I'll go through this row, then through the second row until I've exhausted this list. So I see my first data value is in the 80s, 82. So this has stem of 8 and leaf of 2. My second data value is 47. So it has stem of 4, leaf of 7. My third data value is 75. So it has stem 7, leaf 5. Okay, so I have finished my stem and leaf plot for this set of data. So what's nice about a stem and leaf plot is that you can easily see that a lot of students scored in the 70s and the 80s. So just by the length of these lists, you can get a good idea for where the majority of your data values are going to lie. So this is how you make a stem and leaf plot from a set of data. So what I'm going to do now is create a dot plot. And a dot plot is all about plotting dots to represent each data value. So in order to set up my dot plot, I'm going to make a rather long horizontal line here. And along this horizontal line, I'm going to tick off values to represent my data values. So I can see that my data values are concentrated between the 40s and the 90s. So I'll probably make the smallest tick on here a 40 and the largest a 99. And then I will just fill in according to scale, tick marks along here for the different data values. Okay, so I've filled in all my tick marks. Each tick mark represents one unit. And what I'm going to do is put some dots on here for the test values. And what I'm going to do is put dots above this line and stack them if I need to. So let me just demonstrate that. So I'm actually going to work from my stem and leaf plot instead of using my list of data, but I could easily work from my list of data as well. But in the 40s, I have a data value of 47. So down here here's 45, 6, 7, 47, I'm going to put a dot right here to represent that test score. There's also a test score of 45, so above the 45, and I want to put it in the same height as that dot, I put another. So the first instance of that test score should all be in a row. I also have a data value of 43. So then in the 50s, I have 57, 54, 56, etc. And I'm going to plot all those here. Now here I have another 57. So since I have a second 57, I will put that dot above the previous. Okay, so I have all of my dots filled in, and it's very easy to see at a glance where you have a lot of concentration, right? I have a lot of dots on this end of the spectrum and very few over here, which means the majority of my data is concentrated around here. I can also see when I have repeats of a data value very easily because there are more dots placed in the column. So this is referred to as a dot plot, and it's pretty easy to create. Just make sure that you're being you're putting your dots in as much of a row as you can and stacking them up in an organized way so it's easy to compare your data values. So what I want to do now is create a histogram. So a histogram is a lot like a dot plot, but instead of using dots, we're actually going to create a bar graph. And what I'm going to do to create this histogram is I'm actually going to use a frequency distribution that we made for this data in a previous example. Let me grab that now. Okay, so here's the frequency distribution that we made for this same data set in a previous example video. So what I'm going to do is transfer this frequency distribution into a visual that we call a histogram using a bar graph. So in a histogram, you want to represent your actual data values on your horizontal axis. In this case, we're going to indicate those with classes from our frequency distribution. So this is going to be consist of your x values, your actual data values. And on the horizontal axis, we're going to keep track of the frequency. Okay, so what I'm going to do is add some labels here on my axes. Okay, so in a histogram, we are creating a bar graph where the bars are all touching each other. And ideally, you would want these to be evenly spaced, but you can see I ran out of room, so I made these a little tight over here, but ideally you want these to all be the same width. And then on the vertical axis, we're going to keep track of the frequency. So the number of scores between 40 and 50 is 3. So in the 40, so a height of 3 right here. The number of scores between 50 and 60, our 50s range, we had 6 scores there. So this bar will be a height of 6. Again, in a histogram, you want the bars in your bar graph to be touching. From 60 to 70, we had 6 scores. 70 to 80, 11 scores. From 80 to 99 scores. And in the 90s, we had 5 scores. Okay. And typically when you see a histogram drawn out, these bars would be colored in, right? Which I'll just quickly do with my highlighter. But the histogram is a pretty common way to visually represent your set of data values. You can easily do that with classes or individual data values. But here I chose to do this example with classes instead of individual data values like we did with our dot plot. But these are 3 different visual representations of your data, and you'll be asked to produce all 3 in your homework.